And as Laura mentioned, please do put your name or at least your organization's name in the chat as attendance if you are going to apply is mandatory. So we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So great, thanks, Laura. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to the mandatory pre-application webinar for the City of Mountains View's fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27 Community Development Block Grant and General Fund Public Services Notice of Funding Availability. My name is Parneet Binza. I'm the Human Services Manager with the City Manager's Office in Mountain View. I am joined today by my colleague, Alec Viral, with the housing, who's a housing officer with the Housing Department, Julie Barnard, our Affordable Housing Manager with the Housing Department, as well as Laura Salcido with the City Manager's Office. We also have Lauren Silver from Zoom Grants, which is the online application system for the Notice of Funding Available. And so, again, thank you for joining us today. This meeting is going to be recorded and posted on the city website a little bit later today. And we will go ahead and get started. All right, so today's agenda will include a purpose of this meeting, information about the NOFA, requirements for the CDBG Public Services grants, as well as the General Fund Public Services grants. We'll talk about the process and schedule, contract requirements, the key timelines. We'll also have a Zoom grants tutorial. And then as we have a ton of information to share with you and we've got a limited amount of time, I'm going to ask that questions be saved until the end. And if possible, to please use your mic and not the chat function for your questions so that your questions can be heard on the recording as well. All right, so the purpose of this mandatory pre-application meeting is to acquaint the public, including applicants, with the application and decision-making process for the city's FY2025-26 and 26-27 CDBG and General Fund Public Services NOFA, including the funding process and the program requirements. So next, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Alec, to provide an overview of the NOFA across the next few slides.
Thanks, Parneet. Hi, everybody. My name is Alec Viral, and I am a housing officer with the city's housing department. The City of Mountain View's fiscal year 2025 through 2030 consolidated plan outlines 3 draft priorities and how federal grants like the Community Development Block Grant Program will be used to address those draft needs. So currently, the 3 draft priority needs are to increase affordable housing for lower income and special needs households, establish and support programs to prevent and end homelessness, and support activities that promote safety, security, wellness, and well-being for lower income households and special needs populations, such as seniors, abused and neglected youth, and the disabled. An estimated amount of $233,000 is available for CDBG public service grants, and an additional $171,000 from the city's general fund is available to supplement programs and activities that do not qualify for CDBG funding. Please note that the final CDBG amount available is dependent on the city's allocation from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Next slide, please. For both CDBG and general funded public service grants, eligible applicants include 501c3 nonprofit organizations, community or faith-based organizations, government agencies, and school districts. Grants must benefit one or more of the following groups, including low and moderate income households, seniors, persons with disabilities, homeless persons, and youth. and the minimum funding threshold for CDBG and general fund public service grants is $7,500. As mentioned, an estimated amount of $233,000 is available for CDBG public services, and eligible activities include, but are not limited to, childcare, crime prevention and public safety, domestic violence programs, education, employment and job training, fair housing counseling, legal services, senior programs, and substance abuse services. Please note there are additional compliance requirements applicable for CDBG recipients, including submitting quarterly reports, reporting demographic data, annual monitoring by the city, and ensuring that the program or activities policies and procedures comply with CDBG guidelines. For general fund public services, $171,000 is available in funding, and eligible activities include programs related to art, culture, human services, and those not eligible for federal funds like CDBG. And now I will turn it over to Lauren to walk us through the process of applying on the Zoom Grants portal.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Give me just a moment while I share my screen here. I'm going to take you through a quick tutorial for applicants on how to create, submit, and manage applications within Zoom Grants. If you cannot see my screen, please speak up, or if anything happens along the way. If you also want to have access to this slideshow, just want to let you know we will be providing this for everyone before you start scribbling notes too perversely. There's 4 things that you should know first about Zoom Grants. First, you must have a direct link to apply and an applicant account in order to create an application within Zoom Grants. So check to make sure that you also have the correct applicant credentials for your organization. Only the head applicant, the person who is listed on the summary tab of your application, will be the one who can click the final submit button for your organization. You can also have collaborators, those who can help assist with that application process, but only the head applicant can submit. We also work off the tab system within Zoom Grants. As you'll notice, you can go to different parts of the application and click into different tabs to access the budget versus application questions or document uploads that you may need to provide. Also, you should know about our awesome autosave feature. Zoom Grants will automatically save your progress as you move from field to field. And when you do so, you'll see a flash of gray in a saving screen as your change is being made. Just a quick note, if you see that saving message flash for more than a few seconds, or if you want to halt that saving process and make another change, simply tap twice anywhere on your page and that will cancel the save. If, for example, your internet ever disconnects, you can refresh your page, and once that connection is reestablished, you'll be able to see that the autosave will also resume. We also, number 4, have a check for completion. So Zoom Grants is going to go through and check to make sure every single question has at least some answer provided for it. So every question must be completed. We will also make sure that any document which is marked as required must be uploaded in order to submit that application. And if not, we will give you an indication or notice before you go to submit that you must correct before being able to click that final submit button. So to get started creating your account, as I mentioned, recipient accounts can only be created on the funder's Zoom Grants page. You cannot simply go to zoomgrants.com and start an application or find the opportunity that way. The funder will provide a link to apply on their website, or you can email them directly if you have trouble finding that link. We cannot provide that link to any potential applicants. Second, to provide or to create an application, you must have a Zoom Grants account. So to create an account, you can do so using the bar on the right-hand side. You can also use the place up at the top to log in if you have an existing Zoom Grants account or within the system. Once you're logged in, you can click apply. You also, as you can see, click the preview button if needed. If you have any needs for assistance, you can click the help button in the upper right-hand corner of your application, or you can use the search bar to search your applications by title or application ID. Once you have created that application using the direct link to apply, it's worth noting that it's no longer needed after that. You can simply bookmark and log in between sessions at our website, zoomgrants.com. You only need that link to apply or the key to get into the door the first time. After that, your application will be linked to your application or applicant's organization account in Zoom Grants. So here's a quick tour of the application. Once you log in, you'll see there's a place where you'll be able to contact the administrator. There's your My Account Home button to be able to navigate back. Program information tabs, which, as I'll note, this may look different from the sample application I'm going to show you next. This is for a general application within Zoom Grants. And any tabs you see, it's worth noting this feature may have a different label depending upon the settings chosen by the administrator. So you also will have, as you see, the ability to print preview any application if you need to. You'll have a summary tab of your application where you'll enter basic contact information for your organization and general application information, such as a title, an amount requested. You can also use the summary tab in the section at the bottom to add collaborators, those who will work alongside you as an applicant to complete parts of the application and later to perhaps work on post-award features such as financial or post-award reports. Remember, as you're navigating from field to field, Zoom Grants will save those fields' contents as you go from each one. If there's a pre-application, which I don't believe there is in this process, that must be completed before you can go to subsequent parts of the application. A pre-application is not required, I believe, for this process, so I'm going to skip through this.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Lauren.
We have then only a application questions tab. Note, most of the information that you're going to provide within your application will be housed here under this section. And you'll note that there's different question types depending upon what is being requested. And please be mindful of different character limits that are imposed for each type of question. There may, in some cases, also be a branching question within. Under the budget tab, you may need to be mindful to complete this budget, as this will not be double checked by the Zoom Grant system. We will provide totals at the bottom of any column. You do not need to fill every tab field within this tab in order for that information to be able to be submitted through the system. Similarly, for any tables that are within the system, you would be able to resize any that you need. Click the refresh button to refresh or update any totals. And again, these features may have a different label depending upon settings by the chosen by the administrator. Lastly, under the Documents tab, you'll want to make sure that you click the Upload button next to each associated document in order to upload that specific document. And as I noted before, any document that's marked as required means that you must have at least one document uploaded to that slot before the system will allow you to click the Submit button or the Final Submit button. When you're ready to submit, there's a few things you should check first. First, if you're not seeing the Submit Now button, that usually means that you are a collaborator and not the application owner. As I mentioned before, only the main application owner can be the one logged in to click the Final Submit button, the person essentially authorized for your organization. If everything is successful, you should see a note that says, thank you, or you can a note that says, by entering your initials here, you certify this application truthfully and accurately represents your request. And then you can enter your initials and click Submit Now. You'll see a notice here that says, thank you, your information has been saved and this application has been submitted. You'll receive some other further reassurance because where there used to be a Submit Now button, there's instead a date and timestamp of when that application was received. If there are any issues, instead of a thank you, this message you see in red, we will indicate to you, you skipped question number 3, or you still need to go and upload required document number, or whatever it's titled as. While you're working on your application, there's a couple other quick notes I want to provide to you. You can, for example, duplicate any application within your account or print, if you wanted to, from your My Account homepage. While you're working on your applications, they will always be in what's called your incomplete applications folder, and you can click the title of that application in order to see or go back into that application that you're working on. If you need to archive an application, that's what the little trash can button will mean. And archiving an application is different than saving an application. So remember that an application must be in your incomplete applications folder in order to submit it. Once an application has been approved, it would move over into your approved applications folder, and you would see it listed on the right-hand side of your main homepage for your organization. You have some easy access buttons that you'll be able to access once they are approved. For example, a quick way to create an invoice or a report. The process to delete an application is somewhat difficult, and we keep it that way so someone doesn't accidentally delete an application. As I mentioned, archiving is not the same as saving. In the incomplete applications folder, click the trash can icon in order to move it from your incomplete applications folder to your archived applications folder. Then and only then would you be able to click that trash can again in the archived applications folder to permanently delete that application. A few tips from the Zoom Grants team: try to save yourself some stress if you can. Start early, finish early, and submit early. And if you need to, please also reach out if you need any assistance. Zoom Grants can assist with things like if your head applicant has left the organization and a collaborator needs to assume that role. With the administrator's concurrence, we can help make those kind of credential updates for you, and to help with other things, such as if you're working to upload a document and having trouble with it, we can assist with that if there's any issues. Contact us. You can visit ZGU, which I'll take you to in here in a moment. That's our online database to assist with anything you might want to know about Zoom Grants University. You can contact tech support by going to questions@zoomgrants.com, or you can give us a good old-fashioned phone call at 866-323-5404, extension 2. And with that, I'm going to take you over to a live version of the application in a preview mode for the applicant. This is where you're able to see the title of the program, the general information tabs at the top, which you can hide or expand if you want to, in order to get down to or scroll down to the main part of the application, which, as I mentioned, these tabs have been renamed so often by the administrator to be more customized for their own application. Your summary tab will require you to enter a project name, amount requested, total project cost. You can navigate between each tab by clicking the next button at the bottom, or clicking between tabs if you want to, for example, go and see all the documents that are required and start gathering those while you're working on your questions. You don't have to work on the application in any kind of sequential order. Although you might want to at least first start at the applicant info and project overview. You'll see that most of this information is going to be auto-populated and reflected from other applications from this organization that may have been submitted previously through Zoom Grants. If this section needs to be updated or that person is no longer with the organization, this is where Zoom Grants tech support team can help if needed, or you can contact us to assist with that if, for example, somebody is leaving the organization. As you go from field to field, you can see here, as you scroll through, that you must have at least one answer for every field as you go through that application. You can click to the budget and complete each section here. The first section will cover funding sources and revenues. The second will ask about funding uses and expenses. And there's a third section at the bottom that will address a budget narrative where you can discuss the items and amounts you had above. What we refer to as the Tables tab has been renamed to be the Green Rehabilitation Upgrades tab. This may be used for a different purpose or later on in the process, or we also have the Required Documents tab, which is where, as I mentioned, you would be required to upload certain documents that are required and some which may be only applicable to general fund, for example. If you have any questions as you're filling out any part of that application, it's worth noting the second tab is not required. This is for preview and what will be required later under the post-award realm of Zoom grants. You can go up to the Help button at any time for a quick list on the left-hand side about how to do this, how to create a Zoom grants account, and some quick tips along the way. If you're more of a visual learner, we have videos that you can access on the right-hand side, the slideshow, as I mentioned, as well as the ability to contact the administrator for program-related questions, or if you're having technical problems, a quick way to ask Zoom grants, in addition just to sending an email to questions@zoomgrants.com. If you'd like to go to Zoom Grants University's college for applicants, you can click here and it will take you there, where you can also use the searchable database to find answers to quick questions. We also have a quick chat feature here that will help you quickly find answers to those questions, as well as another quick way to email tech support if you are not able to find that answer quickly. There's articles within here to frequently asked questions that can be helpful along the way. With that, I'll go ahead and open it up to additional questions or pass it over to you.
Thanks, Lauren. We're going to go ahead and continue with the PowerPoint, but we, rest assured, have time at the end for questions related to Zoom grants for Lauren or any other questions related to the PowerPoint. So for those of you who just joined, welcome. Please do add your name and your organization into the chat. Attendance for applying is required. So for tracking purposes, we need to understand which organizations are attending this webinar. So if you haven't already, either update your name or please add your name and your organization into the chat. And then we will go ahead and resume. Okay. Okay. So thank you, Lauren, again for that presentation on Zoom grants. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the evaluation criteria. So all applications will be evaluated for completeness of application, including uploading required documents. So as you saw on the NOFA, Zoom Grants is the only portal to submit the application. Please do not email anything or mail anything. This is the only platform where applications will be submitted. And please ensure that all of your applications are complete. Scoring is going to be based on addressing community needs, your organization's administrative capacity to implement your program, activity, or the project, in addition to ensuring that the organization has process flows for such program, activity, or project. Applications will also be evaluated on how they further the consolidated plan goals that were mentioned earlier. And so a little bit about the contractual requirements. So public services grants are 2-year contracts. This means that if your organization is applying that only one application, which hopefully many of you will submit soon, is going to be needed to cover the next 2 fiscal years. And so your year 2 funding, if approved, is estimated to be the same as year 1. So I'll give an example. If my organization were to submit a public services application for $10,000 and it gets approved, my organization would receive $10,000 for fiscal year 25-26, and most likely $10,000 for fiscal year 26-27. And so there is nothing that your organization would need to do for that year two, logistically wise. There is no letter or an application. It's just based on whether or not it would get approved by council. So please do keep that in mind. And so year two funding is going to be contingent on city council funding approval, as well as satisfactory performance. And so what that means is that your year one funding must be fully spent down, and all your invoices, including supporting documentations, must be submitted. So we cannot execute year two contracts if you still have funding left over in your year one budget. So please make sure that when that time comes, you have spent down all of your funds. In addition, quarterly goals and your actual goals may be considered. The city wants to support the great work that you all do in our community, for our community. And so I just ask that when you're filling out the goals in your application, please be realistic. We, of course, have updated the application for you to provide some context in terms of if you're not meeting your goals, and if you're experiencing some challenges. Please do share that with us so that we can take that into consideration. And then in addition, again, there's quarterly reporting and invoicing. That is all done through Zoom grants and uploaded through that portal. There's also going to be some insurance requirements that are required once we get to the point of contract contract execution. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. And so a little bit here about the review, approval process and schedule. Please take note of the NOFA application deadline, which is January 10th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Applications will not be allowed to be submitted after that timeline, so please do take note of that. And so once staff have completed our evaluation, we will bring our recommendations to an advisory board of the city, which is the Human Relations Commission. And please note that staff solely, we make recommendations to that commission. Funding and approval is also subject to their recommendation. So again, our role here is to review your application based on the components that I talked about earlier, and we can make recommendations to the Human Relations Commission, and then they can decide whether or not they approve or want to modify staff's recommendation. So after the Human Relations Commission meeting, which is right now set for March 6, 2025, we do not anticipate that meeting date to be changed. Staff will go to City Council to present the HRC's recommendation. And that date is for April 22nd, 2025. And so final funding and who gets approved and what that funding amount is going to be subject to approval by City Council. So it is very, very strongly encouraged, I cannot emphasize this enough, that applicants who are recommended to funding attend the March 6th HRC meeting, and funding recommendations may be affected by your attendance. So please do keep that in mind. It is a great opportunity for the Human Relations Commission to understand who is applying, put a face to a name if possible, and to really advocate for your organization to receive said funding. That meeting has limited space, so we do kindly request that only one person from your organization who can speak upon the mission and the application attends. Please note that sorry, that's not the correct one. And then, as I mentioned, so the deadline is going to be January 10th, 2025 at 5 p.m. The NOFA application period already began. It began last Friday on the 6th. And then, as I mentioned, applications that do not meet the deadline will not be accepted. So please do make sure that you are submitting everything through Zoom Grants. And then selected recipients are included in the annual action plan that will be submitted to Housing and Urban Development in May of 2025. And then also, lastly, the program year will begin on July 1, 2025. So please just be aware that in between the time of when council approves, there's going to be a little bit of gap while the staff from the city here work on those contracts. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Alec to wrap us up on contact info.
Thanks, Bernate. So for any CDBG programmatic questions, you can contact me via email. My email is alec.vibral@mountainview.gov, or you can reach me by phone at 650-903-6546. For any general fund questions, you can contact the email address generalfundnonprofit@mountainview.gov or call 650-903-6646. For any emails requesting assistance, just please be sure to include NOFA FY 2025-26 in the subject line. That just makes it easier for us to keep track of it and ensure that we get you the information that you need. For Zoom grants or technical questions, please review the applicant guides on Zoom Grants University. If the issue cannot be resolved based on the information provided there, you can contact the Zoom Grants support team by emailing questions@zoomgrants.com or calling 866-323-5404, extension 2. On one final note, the city holiday closure is occurring from December 23rd through January 2nd. So this may cause a slight delay in response from city staff to questions, but we will certainly be sure to get answers to those questions once we return.
All right, and that is the end of our presentation. So thank you everyone for attending. And at this point, we are happy to take any questions that you may have. As I had mentioned earlier, because this presentation is being recorded, I do request that you please share your questions using your microphone so that they're not in the chat in case that we can't see if possible. So I'm going to stop sharing and we will open it up for any verbal questions.
Yeah, hi, this is Mark Fischler with Parents Helping Parents, and thank you for your prior support of us. It seems like this is exactly the process from years past. Anything different?
No, it's exactly
great.
the same. Yeah.
Which is awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know, I'm sorry, one more. Do you know what time the HRC is going to meet on March 6th?
That's a great question. They have a standard set time. I don't recall off the top of my head, but information, I think, I wonder if Julie's on the call, she might know off the top of her head. 6:30 p.m. is when it'll be. Thanks,
you.
Julie.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hello, this is Georgia Basil from Senior Adults Legal Assistance. Just following up on the prior question, no changes from the past. So on the application, are we giving you information only for the first year, budget information, goals for year one, as we did last time, and then it would roll over to year two if we were funded?
Yes, that's correct. So the information that you submit on the application will cover both fiscal years. So keep that in mind. If you are, whatever goals that you're setting are going to be the goals for the next fiscal year. Whatever budget you are requesting is the same budget that you would request for the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Madeline from Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto. I wanted to ask if there's a maximum award amount an organization can receive, or I know there's the minimum amount of $7,500. So if there's kind of an average anticipated award per organization.
There is a minimum. There is no maximum. Please keep in mind that historically, general fund applicants have been oversubscribed. And so we only have $171,000 available for general fund and 233 for CDBG. So there is a minimum, but we're going to be looking at what your your application looks at. And then we do have to balance in other factors. So that's it's not something that we can't guarantee that you'll receive what you're requesting. We have to look into other factors as well. And it'll also be based again on the Human Relations Commission's review of our recommendations.
Hi, this is Poonam from Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. I have a quick follow-on question to the last one. We are a current grantee and we get a certain grant amount. Is there a guideline for what we can apply for going forward? Do we stay within the same parameters or could we ask for more?
Could you clarify when you mean stay within the same parameters or ask for more? Are you talking about funding or are you talking about the scope of your program?
So if we are delivering higher numbers than our current scope, could we request a grant amount which is higher than our current grant amount? That is what I mean by the guidelines or parameters. So
Yeah,
stay
great.
within the same ask or would you entertain a higher ask if we can justify it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as applicants, you are free to request whatever amount you would like. But again, we cannot guarantee anything. And if you would like to request the same program and similar type of funding, you can. If you would like to request the same type of program and maybe a little bit higher amount of funding, you definitely can as well.
Hi, this is Michael at Move Mountain View. Thank you very much. This is a helpful presentation. We receive some what I'd call pass-through funds from the city because we're funded as operators of the safe parking by the county. We don't interact with that flow. We don't have a total for that. It's as far as we know, it's just a matter between the city and the county. On question 28, there's a place to put in the amount of city general funds that we're currently receiving. I'm assuming we enter nothing there.
Great question, Michael. I believe that would be true because, again, the contract is with the county. But Laura, if you can please track that, and I can definitely follow up with our finance department or our city attorney's office and get back to you on that one.
That would be helpful. Thank you very much.
Hi, I have a question. This is our first year applying with Loaves and Fishes Family Kitchen. We have a senior food program in Mountain View. I'm curious if there's any advice if we should apply for CDBG funding or general fund support.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think maybe Alec can jump in here a little bit. I think depending on kind of the nature of your program, if it's a little bit more broad, like food support, transportation support, support for vulnerable populations, again, general fund is a little bit more broader than CDBG, as those do have HUD requirements. I would say take a look at the application and see what you feel is best. What staff do at the end is when we review applications, we can go ahead and when we review, if we deem that maybe your application is better fit for CDBG or general fund or vice versa, we'll go ahead and make that switch internally for just awareness. So I would say do your best to see what you feel your organization would be best fit for. And don't worry about whether or not it can be changed. We can do that on our end administratively.
Yeah, to add a bit onto that, CDBG funding comes from the federal government and it has a number of administrative requirements that are, pretty strict and that they must be followed. And then if they're not followed, then it could cause issues later down the line. So, as long as your program serves low to moderate income persons within the city, as long as it meets a public service CDBG matrix code, things like that are really what we're looking for. And then additionally, Does your organization have prior experience administering federal funds? Do you have the organizational capacity to follow all of the requirements that are required from HUD? Things like that is what we look for when it comes to CDBG.
Okay.
I can also add, Stephanie, that historically organizations that are providing food support services have historically fallen under the general fund category. So I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you both.
My name is April. I'm with Silicon Valley Independent Living Center, and I'm new with this organization. And I just received an email for a link to set up my account. Username is being my email and then a password, but when I put it in, it defaults back to the executive director, Sherry Burns, and it doesn't give me the link. Is that because she's our administrator on our account that we currently have received funding from with you guys? Is that why it keeps kicking me out?
Good question. I'm going to turn that over to Lauren from Zoom Grants to respond.
Yes, I think if you are new and don't have, if you have an existing organization's account within Zoom Grants, that you may need to see who is the head applicant for that. But we can also, I would contact tech support and maybe copy the administrator, and we can help update credentials if, for example, that person's no longer with the organization or you need to be the head applicant.
Okay, I think it would still be Sherry Burns, who's currently still the executive director. I know I'm on the call, and our director of programs is also on this call. I don't know if they're going to get two different links to an account that she might be the administrator on our Zoom's account.
Whoever is the head applicant, so it sounds like it's her, she should be the one who logs in and at least creates the application. She can then also invite you as a collaborator or anybody else who might need to edit or work on the application. But that person who is listed as the head applicant must be the one to create the application, as well as, once it's complete, go in and click the final submit button.
Correct. Thank you. Since she's now on this call, would she still get that link? And forgive me if I just misheard you earlier when you were giving your presentation about the link. Since she's not on this call, which is a mandatory call, would she still get that link to be able to get invited to apply? Or would that be, because we're already part of the our organization, that there would be a moot issue that she still have access?
I believe the direct link to apply is provided to on the website or to anyone. So that shouldn't be an issue. Correct me if I'm wrong, Parneet. But
yeah, I think that is accurate. Al can double check too for the NOFA though.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, you too.
Hi, this is Angie from Silicon Valley. I've already started the application, and yeah, we're already in, and it's under our executive director's name, and that link is for April for you to be a collaborator on the application.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Chung Chi from CSMA. I have a specific question regarding the uploads. The attachment number 4. It requires an authorization to release funds. And according to the description, it says, submit a documentation such as meeting minutes in which the resolution, motion, or other official action is recorded. We do not have a board meeting in December, and this is due like early January. So we are wondering if an email can be, can replace the meeting minutes, or an official meeting has to be called.
Yeah, great question. I would ask that you upload an official letter from your board with the board's contact information, whoever the president of your board is. And please have them note that that your organization is not having a meeting during the month of December.
Okay. And can we replace with like email vote or something like that?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding that question.
Oh, yeah. So, because this we still need to submit the authorization. Can we
Yes,
use?
like your letter should state something along the lines of that your board president or whoever it is does approve this. Yeah.
Okay, only the board president authorize that would be
Ideally, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Or if you want it to get it signed by all of the board members, that's fine too. But we're really looking for at least the president or executive director. Yeah.
okay, great. Thank you.
Joel from Life Moves.
Hi. So I have two questions. Uh, my first sorry, my camera's off. My first question is, if we have an urgent need for facility upgrades or renovation, is that something that is applicable under these funds?
Good question. Not applicable under general fund. I'm gonna turn it over to Julie and Alec to see whether facility improvements are for CDBG. I'm not sure, so I'm gonna ask them to respond to that question.
Yeah. So unfortunately for this year, we're just giving CBG funds for public services. So capital projects are not being included in this NOFA.
Okay, great. And then my second question is, if we have more than one program that we feel like could use funding, should we turn in like a consolidated application or just maybe in that application somehow say like these are the two things we want to fund? I mean, how do
Great
we do
question.
that?
Great question. Yes, we do have current applicants who are funded, who either have a CDBG program and a general fund. Please submit a separate application for each program you are applying for.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks. Andy from Pacific Clinics.
Hi, thanks so much. I really appreciate the informative meeting. Thank you so much for it. Really quick question under the City General Public grant. I was curious about how many providers are typically selected during this process, and is it generally the same providers applying for the same type of service, if you know?
Yeah, great question. I we track the number of applicants, but we've been doing these programs for decades, so we don't really look at whether there's like a trend line. And then I think to answer the second question, it really varies. So sometimes we've had historical applicants, we've also had new applicants, so it varies.
Okay, thanks so much. And last question. I think you might have answered it, but I was just wanted just to be clear. If we were awarded a grant, the backup documentation expectation for our agency, I think you said would be quarterly reporting goals, making sure that we're spending down the grant money before it gets re-upped on the second year. And then I think that you meant for invoices. I was just curious if there was other expectations regarding documentation that we would need to be aware of.
Yeah, good question. So, if your organization does receive funding, then you'll be required to submit quarterly invoices on Zoom grants with supporting backup documentation on how that quarterly amount was spent. And then there is also a quarterly reporting requirement where you will share on the goals that you achieved for that quarter.
Can I add also, good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Barnard, the Affordable Housing Manager. As part of a recent voluntary compliance agreement that we have gone through with HUD, we've had to take some steps to work with grantees on certain supporting documents, and that includes things like their LEPs, and there are a number of things that are attached to the application. To facilitate this for you all, we have developed templates. What I will say is that if you have the template already because you're a recipient of the funding already, that's great. if you're a new applicant, it's okay if you don't use ours, but we would like to see some documentation. And if you are selected, between the time you're selected and between the time we execute a contract, we would require that you complete our template. So that is just to say that we don't want to put you through a rigorous process if you're not ultimately going to be receiving funding, which I think hopefully is unlikely, but I did just want to highlight the fact that there may be some additional reporting compliance pieces that we would request from subrecipients after selection.
And Julie, could you clarify if that is for CDBG only?
Yes. Well, yes. So for us, if you guys want to, I mean, I don't know, we're in alignment, but Connie, I don't think that this is necessarily a city general fund requirement.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that for what Julie shared, that is referring to if you were applying to CDBG, if you were applying to general fund. I'll just recap again. The requirements are you're submitting a quarterly invoice with backup documentation, and then you are submitting your actuals compared to your goals. And so remember, whatever goals you put on your application, you will be expected to provide us an update every quarter on where you are with those goals. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Yeah, it's actually a question about our current grant. If maybe when this ends, I can ask somebody about that because I have an invoicing question.
Yes, Mark, if you could actually just email the general fund nonprofit email address with that question, that would probably be the best way to get a
Okay.
reply soon.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I wish everybody happy holidays and see you on March 6th. Good luck with your application.
Best of luck, everyone. Thank you all so much.